There is an idea, a theory, so fundamental it suggests that we have misunderstood the very fabric of our reality. It proposes that the universe is not silent, that it is, in fact, constantly speaking. But it's not speaking in a language of words. It speaks in the language of light.
Think about that statement. Its implications are just vast. Our entire world, our history, our very understanding of who we are, it's all built from sentences. But what if this is just a local dialect, a custom confined to our tiny corner of a universe that communicates on a completely different plane? What if we've been listening for whispers, when all this time we should have been watching for patterns?
The true language, according to this theory, is one of vibration, of frequency, a silent cosmic resonance that echoes through all of existence. This would mean the universe isn't a collection of quiet, empty spaces at all, but an enormous, interconnected network of information pulsing with a conversation that we are only now, maybe, beginning to understand. And the primary medium for this conversation is light itself.
So, let's start there. Section 1, light as information. We tend to think of light as just a tool for illumination. It pushes back the darkness, it reveals the physical world around us. But this view is, well, it's profoundly limited. We have to start seeing light not as something that simply allows us to see, but as something that is meant to be read.
Consider the pulsar. It's a collapsed star, spinning with a regularity that actually rivals our most advanced atomic clocks. From here on Earth, its rhythmic pulse of radiation cuts through the void, like a perfect metronome in the vastness of space. Is it just a random stellar artifact? Or could it be something more? A signal, maybe, keeping a silent universal time?
And this isn't an isolated phenomenon. Across the cosmos, we see countless stars that show similar rhythmic changes in their brightness. These aren't just chaotic flickers. They are ordered, consistent patterns. It would seem that the universe is filled with these steady, repeating beats.
And then, of course, there's the radiation itself, that faint, ancient light that has traveled for billions of years just to reach us. It carries the chemical fingerprints of the stars where it was born, the echo of the universe's own creation. For a long time, we've treated this as just cosmic background noise. But what if it's not noise? What if it's data? The story of the cosmos encoded in the very fabric of light, just waiting for a translator. And this brings us to a more formal definition, the theory of light as information. It posits that all this electromagnetic radiation, it's not just a byproduct of stars burning, it's a primary medium for transmitting data, a kind of cosmic archive, carrying incredibly complex information across unimaginable scales of both time and distance.
And here we see a crucial shift in perspective. On one hand, you have the passive view. Light simply allows sight. It's a static property. It just reveals surfaces. But on the other hand, the active view. Light carries structured data. It becomes a dynamic medium, one that reveals deep and hidden patterns. So we're moving from just seeing with light to the idea of reading from light.
Section 2, echoes in ancient cultures. Now, this theory might sound like something from the cutting edge of modern science, but there are signs that this knowledge isn't new at all. What if it's ancient? A language we've simply forgotten how to speak? What if our ancestors were not just observing the stars, but were actually listening to them? Throughout our recorded history, in almost every culture on Earth, we find these accounts of luminous beings, angels, devas, spirits, entities described not as being made of flesh and blood, but of pure light. We've always categorized these as myth, or perhaps metaphor. But what if they were literal attempts to describe a real phenomenon, something for which our ancestors simply had no words? This offers a profound reinterpretation. Perhaps these beings were described as being of light, because light was the very medium of their existence, or at the very least, of their communication. Information, maybe even consciousness itself, transmitted across the void in the only form that could possibly endure such a journey. And when you think about it, light would be the perfect medium. First, it carries memory across time. The light we see from a distant star is ancient history arriving in our present moment. Second, it doesn't forget. Its frequency holds its information completely intact. And third, it resists distortion, even over vast cosmic distances. It's the ultimate incorruptible archive. Section 3, the code of consciousness. If the universe is in fact transmitting information, a signal, then there must also be a receiver. And this brings us to the most speculative and perhaps the most important part of this theory,
the potential link between this cosmic code and human consciousness itself. Consider the sacred visions of mystics and prophets throughout history. These are experiences that have literally altered the course of civilization. We classify them as internal events, products of faith or meditation or simply imagination. But this theory offers an alternative. What if these weren't internal fabrications, but external receptions? Moments when the human mind, just for a brief period, managed to decode a fragment of the structured life. And what about revelations? Those sudden flashes of insight that have transformed science and art and philosophy. Are they purely psychological events, happening entirely inside our minds? Or could they be moments when an individual's consciousness momentarily tunes into this universal frequency, causing a fundamental shift in how they perceive reality itself? Section 4. Listening to the pulse. If this cosmic language does exist, it's pretty clear we can't perceive it with our ordinary senses. It's not a sound you can hear, nor an object you can see in the usual way. It seems to require a fundamental shift in our perception, a new way of listening to the quiet rhythms of the universe. The signal is not a shout. It is a whisper, a quiet, steady pulse. You can find it in the rhythm of a distant star, and maybe in the subtle patterns of our own awareness. It doesn't demand our attention, it simply waits to be noticed. And the implication of this is truly transformative. Whether it was an ancient shaman interpreting the movements of the stars, or a modern scientist decoding the cosmic background radiation, once you perceive this underlying order, this hidden language, your understanding of reality is permanently altered. The pattern once seen cannot be unseen. And so, we're left with a final lingering question. With all of our modern technology, with our most powerful telescopes aimed at the deepest reaches of space, are we really discovering something new? Or are we as a species just remembering an ancient sense? Are we, after millennia of noise and distraction, finally learning how to see again?